All right, let's hope things work a bit better now. Look, we had some technical difficulties. We started a little bit late, but welcome to the Games Talk Live podcast. I got a great show for you today. I erased all my notes. Everything is gone, but it's okay. We will get by because you know what? Everything is up here, and I've got a couple of great panelists here today. One returning panelist. I think this is your third time here, Cassie, in like less than a couple of months. Ever since I had you on the first time, I had a lot of people hit me up and say, you know, I really like that Cassie. She's really cool. She's got a lot to say, very opinionated, but I like that you keep it real. That's why you're back over and over. I really appreciate that. Even when I don't agree with everything, I understand. Like there's some people out there who just are batshit crazy. Let's not get it twisted. Like that I assume that's how I perceive them to be, but Cassie's not one of those people. Even if she has a hot take, I kind of understand where she's coming from. So I like people like that. I like people that keep it real.
Appreciate you, bro.
She's here for that reason. Welcome, Cassie. How have you been?
I'm good. I wore my Sopranos, / Godfather tee for the fellow paisans.
Are you planning on somebody today or what? What's going on?
Never know, man. Never know. But it's good to be here, and I really appreciate you having me on. And you were like, "Hey, man, last minute, you want to pull up?" I'm like, hell yeah, man! I have the free time. Why not for the Fonz, man? I love being here and hanging out with you guys.
Appreciate it. And the other person I have here, one bad mother. I've seen you in the community many times, of course, on other shows and everything. Boomstick show, quite a bit of other shows I've seen you on, but never on this show. So I hit you up as well, said, you want to come on? And you're like, cool, let's jump on. But your mic's not working here for some reason.
Right.
Something's going on. So he's got to use his like webcam mic or something. So it's not the greatest of audio, but it's serviceable. I told him it's fine. It'll do.
That's always, whenever somebody says, I've heard worse, that's never like the way you want to make it an intro. But I have one bad mother, AKA Mr. Technical Difficulties. So, you said technical difficulties for the show. That was me. And I don't know what's going on with this app and my mics. So I hope, community, I hope this comes through well enough. We'll get it figured out for the next time for sure.
Well, it's good to have you. I had a super chat before this started. I want to get to that real quick because I can't pull it up. My program doesn't allow me to pull up a super chat that before I go live anyway. And this was from Biff Rinaldi, $2. Thank you very much. He said, "Sup, Fonz? I'll catch up after the second half. LOL." Apparently, there's this thing called football that's back. And every year during football, my show takes a big hit. But you know what? That's why the Iron Lords go on an hour early, I believe. They try to get through it so they're not like taking up all that football day. Smart of them to do that. But yeah, we're here. I am indeed a fan of the 49ers, and they are playing. But guess what? I'm more of a fan of my own show here. So I want to do this. Anyways, guys, what have you been playing? What have both of you been up to? Like, Cassie, I'll start with you. What have you been playing? What you been up to?
So
I kind of know because I've been peeking at your channel. So.
Oh yeah, so it's a whole lot of Starfield. I started playing. I ended up buying like Stubbs the Zombie. I love zombie games, so I was like, I never got to play this one. It was like $2 on CD Keys. I'm like, man, why not? So I was, Saturday night. I was like, let's run through it. But I ended up staying up till 6 a.m. playing that game. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stream it because it's a fun game. And so I've been playing that really, really fun game that came out in 2005. So the fact that, you can really enjoy that even to this day. I mean, I'm a bit of a retro gamer in some respects. So any kind of game that still holds up, I would love to play it. And even some of the ones that don't exactly hold up, but I can appreciate them for what they are. So that's been a fun time.
Yeah, my extent with retro gaming is like, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I would love to have a lot like this green screen with all the arcade machines behind me. I would love to have those type of things in my home, or my wife would kill me. But the thing is, would I play them much? Probably not. Like a lot of the games, like retro games, I can dabble in it and play just a little bit, couple of missions or whatever. Then I get kind of tired of it because you do remember playing those games back in the day. you didn't have like all these lives, and once you were done with the lives, you were dead, and the game started all the way over, and it was a nightmare to get through games back then. Yeah, it was a different time, but I definitely like this kind of stuff. It's nostalgic. It feels cool, but yeah. One Bad Mother, what have you been playing lately, man?
Yeah, well, my list has been pretty easy for about 3 weeks. When was the early access to Starfield? It's been basically
about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I definitely haven't been touching enough grass. It's really when I'm not working. I feed the kids, I work, and I Starfield, and that's what it's been like for 3 weeks. I'm about 120 hours in. I'm finally getting close to the end of the first run. So,
how? Like, look, I know you can mainline the game pretty quickly. It's not too long, but I'm kind of like staying away from it. I did about, I think, 7 missions now, main missions. And then I've been doing a lot of the Freestar stuff, the Vanguard stuff, just factions basically is what I've been tackling. And I'm having a blast with that. Like, some of these missions are just, better than what I've experienced in the main missions. And those aren't bad. So I don't understand the hate for this game. Look, I get it. When people look at this game, they see old Bethesda in a lot of ways. I do too. I would be lying if I said, this game just looks absolutely incredible. At times there's parts of it that does, but for the most part, it looks like a Bethesda game. It's just like this, a fresh version of a Bethesda game. But there's things about it I don't like, but I love this game. This game, what it does right, the RPG elements, the choices that I get. And it's funny because something happened to me on one of my playthrough. On this playthrough, my only playthrough. I was playing this game and I thought to myself, let me boot this up on cloud just to see if I could play it out and about because I'm addicted to this game. So I'm like, let me try to sneak in at work. Well, I booted it up and it had an old save that popped up. And don't do this at home, kids. I backed out because I was like, this is bullshit. I didn't know that cloud saves automatically save when you back out. And it saved over my last file. I lost 7 hours. 7 hours due to this cloud bullcrap. So here's the funny part, though. So it was just, a couple of missions that I had to run through again. So because I was bullshitting with that 7 hours, I had a lot of bullshit time where I was building upon my ship because I sink a lot of time into like building ships, crafting guns and things like that. I like doing that. So a lot of the time was spent there, but these couple of missions I redid and I chose different options and I got different outcomes. And I was like, this is why I love Bethesda games.
Wait, I was told there was no choice and consequence. Anyways, no.
Who told you that? Because there definitely is.
I was reading through some of the
your
reviews.
Party members will turn on you if you freaking if they don't like what you're doing.
I mean, facetious, but
I'm telling you, like, this is why I love Bethesda games. It's this aspect of it. It's that element of choice. It's the element of consequence. I like that kind of stuff. You don't get that with many other games. And this is why I hold this game higher than a lot of other games this generation. It's currently my favorite game of this gen because of those elements. I don't score it that high. Dear gosh, I'm going to talk about the scores because I really don't care about Metacritic, Cass. I don't know if you really put any stock into it, but
I laugh at it.
I think Metacritic is such a stupid thing because you know what I learned? So I posted this on Twitter as well the other day. I said to myself, I go, if Starfield has taught me one thing, it's that the fanboys on both sides of the issue would have rather had a 90 Metascore than a great game.
Yeah.
It's like they really wanted a 90 plus because they've got a great game right in front of them. Yet you got Xbox guys getting upset it didn't get over a 90, getting upset at other people that they gave it a 7. But at the same time, you got PlayStation guys who even though the great game is out there, it's not great, it's not good, and guess what? You didn't hit that 90. And even if it hit over a 90, they would still naysay the game. It doesn't matter to them. So guys, these arbitrary scores, these scores that are put up on this Metacritic, they mean nothing at the end of the day. If you love the game, that's all that matters.
Yep.
Who cares what people say?
And to your point, Fonz, because it's interesting. You hear the conversations even with people that are fans within the Xbox community. It's like, well, maybe Bethesda could do this next time. Maybe they could spend more time on production values or mocap, or it's like, are you saying that for yourself? Are you saying that because you need to have this Metacritic win? Because Bethesda could, we know they spent a long time. They have the most developers that they've ever had since they've been under Microsoft. And this is the most man and woman power they've ever had for a single game. And obviously there's always going to be give and take, right? You're always going to have certain priorities. And I think if a Bethesda game is going to, be more streamlined, if it's going to focus on production values and presentation over, the sandbox, you might get a leaner game next time. You might get less of that sandbox. And so I think that, like when we kind of look at that aspect of it, like this is, if you're into Bethesda games, this is a Bethesda game. Now I know it does, some things different. It does in some ways feel like a Fallout meets a Mass Effect. It does seem,
and it falls short of other Bethesda games at times.
It's
like
in certain aspects,
some of the crafting
right?
elements aren't there, and it's lacking in that department where I'm kind of shocked, to be honest. Another aspect of it that, and I don't want to be too negative because I do really love this game, but I have to point out the flaws, of course. The fact that it's like they haven't really evolved much at Bethesda. And what I mean by that is you still get people out there stating things like, well, don't worry, the modders will fix it, and things like that. And I feel like at times Bethesda probably does rely on some modders to enhance their games in some ways. And it's like, for us console gamers, that means really nothing. But for the PC community, that's been basically the line for Bethesda for years, for many of their games. Well, the modders will fix it. The modders will fix it. And shout out to Legendary Drops. By the way, I watched a video of his where he talked about that, and it was really interesting. So check out his channel, Ian at Legendary Drops. But he had a good video on that. And I agree. Like, I think Bethesda does need to evolve a bit more. That's one thing I've noticed. I don't know, Cassie, when you're playing the game, don't you kind of feel that Bethesda jank and at times?
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're like,
it's at this
and
point,
people
I'm
will say
used
it's
to
a charm, right? Bethesda charm. No, it's jank, but
it's jank, and sometimes it is funny. Like I just posted a video on Twitter of like me having a conversation, and then this dude just walks in like, "Can I please be a main character right now?" Like, bro, who are you?
Yeah.
What is this? I'm having a conversation with my homie.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like the need to just walk in on this right now? It like that just made me die laughing. But then there's some times where Bethesda jank is obnoxious. It's annoying. It makes you angry. It just depends on what you come across at the time. Some of it's hilarious. Some of it is like, really. But I will say this, for me, I have, I will say I put 90 hours into this game and I haven't even taken it seriously yet. Yeah. Because I play games at my own pace. And this one, I want to thoroughly enjoy it. I haven't come across any serious like bugs or glitches that has made me rage quit life. So right now I'm just playing this game and just getting what I want out of it, because that's what it's all about, because I haven't had a Bethesda open world RPG like make me happy in a very long time, since like New Vegas, because Fallout 4 was a huge catastrophe.
New Vegas is the best. Fallout 3 was good. It was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed. Yeah, Fallout 3 is awesome. I enjoyed that one. It's when Fallout 4 hit, and after that it has been like Fallout 4 was a genuine catastrophe.
I liked Fallout 4, but I understand where people come from, because the element of choice was not really there. No. There was not really much in the way of consequences in that game.
Yeah. You know what? I think most people have had more a better time with Fallout 4 than me, because from the get-go I wanted to go with the Brotherhood of Steel, and just the fact that quest line glitched on me before I even got to start it made me lose my will in the game, and I still ended up beating it, but it was more out of malice and to kind of tell the game to go F yourself more than anything else. But that's really, and I have to blame Bethesda for that one. I'm sure that maybe the game is better if, I would favor it more if it didn't F me over in multiple ways, not just one specific way, but it sucks on that front. But so far with Starfield, 90 hours in, completely not even taking it seriously yet. I'm just going it through places, exploring, clearing out underground areas, just getting the feel of it and just being in my own little world while playing it. That's what makes me happy. The fact that I can lose myself and be like, oh, dang, it's 6 a.m. What happened? Like, just that alone, and just being disconnected and just living that out in the game. That's what I'm here for, because it's been so long since I've had that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people wanted that. I see legendary drops in the chat. What's up, Ian? He says, I think the game is fine. There's a lot of things that make me scratch my head. Energy weapons, accuracy, melee weapons, and all companions being morally good. Yeah, that is kind of true. I've only played with 3 different companions, but so far they have all been morally good.
They are good. If you're going to do bad things, you tell them to wait.
Yeah, because I have Sarah with me a lot now, and every time I do something, she's like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" And it says, "Sarah doesn't like that. Sarah doesn't like that." I'm like, "Sarah can just stay home then, okay?"
You know what? Typical woman, okay? Typical woman.
She is very judgy. She is trying to change you, and I don't appreciate that anymore at this point in my life.
Yeah, no, I do.
Every time I want to pick up, steal something, it's like, come on, we're trying to figure out what's going on in the entire universe right now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me pickpocketing this guy.
You're like, hey, I stole this outfit for you, though. Let's put it on. Anyways. Mark from the Just Gaming Podcast. What's up, Mark? He says, on my way home from the Bahamas, and this show is costing me an arm and a leg. Super interested in Cassie's take today. Much love. That's awesome. There's a fan there, Cass.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's awesome. Lord Roughness with a $5 super chat says, listen, I'm over 3 days in. Same, brother, same. I'm almost at 100 hours. And I'm enjoying it. He says, and Starfield is a 9 out of 10 or over for him. Any game can come out and we can find little faults like what is happening to this game. Of course, there's no game out there that's perfect. Even my favorite game of all time, which is Red Dead Redemption 2, I will admit the controls need to be worked on the next Rockstar game. I'm not one to say, oh yeah, Rockstar's games feel perfect. No, they don't. But what that game did for me, the immersive world, the freaking, just the narrative, everything about that game was just so amazing to me outside of those controls that I love that game so much. But
well, I think that's an interesting point, because it does seem like, and I think that's where some of the contention comes in. It's not, for me, I don't really care about the Metacritic. I agree with some of the critiques about it. There's a long list. Like, as I'm going through it, I can make a list of things that I hope are fixed with mods, updates, DLC, all kinds of things, right? But I think the thing that maybe is frustrating some of the fans about the narrative is that seems to be like mainstream wise, and maybe it's just my algorithm. It feels like it's 80% of the narrative is what it's not doing, where it's missing, where it can be better. And the thing that I kind of go back to is like, well, why is this game, grabbing us in ways that we're not, like, I have not been this generation. There's nothing that's come close to this in terms of like a game that's grabbed me. And, you got to think about it. Like, what other games have this scope, this much, density in terms of all the objects in the environments, all the different choice and consequences. If you're going to isolate one thing at a time, there's other games that have better conversation trees like Baldur's Gate. There's other games that have better exploration like No Man's Sky, but nobody tries to package everything together the way this one does. And I think it's the way that it all works together. And I think that gets kind of overlooked, because like these side missions wouldn't mean anything if they didn't really fit into the world, right? Like, so they really built this in a way that I think is the sum is greater than the parts, right? And I think sometimes that's getting overlooked in the conversations for it.
Of course, I think you bring up a great point, because there's a lot of good and there's some things in this game that you can tear down, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think people some people anyway, hyper-focus on the negative, especially those that either don't care for Bethesda games or are a fanboy and don't like Xbox, or you're just somebody who don't like this type of game in general. Like they're going to hyper focus on that negative no matter what. I choose to, I never go into any game, no matter who's making this game, with that attitude that I want a game to fail. I don't get that attitude at all. I want to see every game succeed. I'm a gamer at the end of the day. I'm the consumer. I want good games. I don't care where they're coming from. I don't care what platform, whatever. I will be there as long as that's a great game. I just don't understand how many people out there are still like hating on this game so much. It makes no sense. It's a really good game. Like a lot of these people, I've talked to some that are hating on it so much that haven't even put any time in it at all. They're just like, oh, it looks bad. I would never play it. What do you mean it looks bad? You would never play it.
Like, you know what? And that's fine. But why is it like you harp on it? Like if it doesn't look good to you, you could say that and just keep it moving. It's like there's this intentional malice against Starfield, Bethesda. Honestly, it's for multiple reasons. Given like the two different like hate campaigns against Starfield, and you know what? I think genuine criticism is important. Bethesda deserves to be criticized, but these particular, the either PlayStation dudes that can't play the game because they don't have an Xbox, they don't have a PC, or like the PlayStation dudes that are just this is kind of the more pathetic of the two. The PlayStation dude that has the Xbox or the PC, but they're just upset that they can't play it on the particular console that they want to play it on. Like that to me is just petty because you're already there. You're just upset it's not on your piece of plastic. And then you have like the whole other conversation with the whole woke thing, and it's just a lot of nonsense that really is not going to make the next Bethesda game a better game. Like this is nonsense talk. I would love to see the next Bethesda game be even better than Starfield. That's why, I do make the criticisms that I do make. Like why can't we mark why can't we mark junk so that I can just
see? We'll see. Are we back? I don't know. Okay.
It's still buffering.
Is it back? Yes, they're saying we're back.
All right. Okay, we're back.
So
nice.
My whole system here just completely froze up, and I was hearing everybody talk, and I was trying to get it back up, but yeah. Thank you, Game On Daily. Member for 24 months says hit that like button. Yeah, hit the like button for technical difficulties today. Yeah. No. But definitely, Cassie, they, people, these developers, of course we should point out when there's faults in these games and stuff, or what we like to see them do better in and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I can't stand, what's worse to me in some ways, not just the people out there that are just hating on these games all the time, but the people that defend these games, and to the point where you can't say anything critically at all. They get so upset. Like, Look, I can sit here and tell you, I love this game. As soon as I mention something I don't like about it, oh, you're just a hater. Man, there's Fonz yelling at the clouds again. Old man, grumpy Fonz. There he is, pissed off, doesn't like anything. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just said I loved it. Oh, no, but you said you didn't like this aspect. It's like, yeah, it's one aspect of the game. Calm down.
Well, and what's funny about that too, Fonz? This is a game actually where your feedback is going to matter, not just with the sequel, but really even over the next year or 2 years, because, you see how these games evolve, right? And you saw how Cyberpunk evolved and No Man's Sky evolved. And I think this game is going to evolve more than probably any Bethesda game has now that they're under Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is like the face of the brand right now. So I think that, not only were you talking about like mods, which we're already seeing, adding some quality of life things here, but all that feedback is going to be, is going to come through in the DLC, which, you mentioned Fallout 4, Cassie, like a lot of those complaints came through in, in their best DLC for that game when people wanted more choice and consequence, and they got mechs and things like that. So the feedback, you can do both. You can really appreciate, you can call out the things that are brilliant in this game, and I think there is some brilliance throughout the experience. But there's a lot of things. There's things that are like low hanging fruit. It's all, you almost wonder how it got through, the playtesters, like the UI, right? Like the UI stuff and like how inventory works. Like that to me just seems, you already got modders coming up with stuff that's a little bit better. So that stuff seems.
Yeah, the inventory is one of probably the worst thing about the game. For me, I don't like the fact that I can't break things down, can't put things, mark them as junk, like Cassie was saying, get rid of all of them at once and things like that. Just quality of life features. And I saw somebody say earlier, we don't need to have all this stuff being able to be picked up in a Bethesda game. I disagree. I like the fact that we can get whatever, go through stuff, pick it up, sell it off, do, different things with it. Yes, I wish that we can break it down like you can in other Bethesda games and actually use those things to craft items in the game. I don't know why they didn't do that in this game. It doesn't make sense to me, but they didn't. I wish they did, but also not just that. When you're fighting and you're shooting up a place and you're blowing those coffee mugs and everything off of the tables and stuff, it looks cool. Or you're using certain abilities in the game. Yeah. Anyways, it looks cool when you're using that stuff and everything is just flying in the air. It's badass.
I was reading your mind there. I know exactly what scene you're talking about when you're using abilities.
Yeah, before you burn the bodies, that scene. It's that way.
Like the thing is, like, people that are like, oh, you shouldn't be allowed to pick up all this stuff, like that, it's counterintuitive to arguably like Bethesda's open world RPG's greatest strength, making the experience as seamless and as your choice as possible. I think that Bethesda needs to work on playing into it more. Like any innovation you can make to make the game as seamless and me as in control of what everything as possible. That's their greatest strength. And I have to push back on that. I want them to play into that more. Anything to give the player that power. Cause it's like, there's some games out there that they look absolutely pristine, but they take the controller out of the hands of the player when it's gameplay time. And those are the games I genuinely am starting to hate the most. It's like you can have the most gorgeous looking game, the greatest performing looking game in the world, but if I feel like you're trying to rip the controller out of my hand when it's playtime, like it makes me more angry than anything else.
How do you feel about like quick time events in games?
It depends. For me, I'm not opposed to them, but if you just throw them in there like just because, and it doesn't have any fulfilling factor to it, then it pisses me off. But
what if every pretty much every boss battle was a QTE in a video
I'd
game?
Be pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be pissed. There's a reason why Uncharted 3 is like my most disliked Uncharted ever. Like the final boss is literally Uncharted 2's final boss fight, but a quick time event. Like that absolutely pissed me off.
Uncharted 2 is my favorite out of that series. I like Uncharted 2. Uncharted 4 is good too. But Uncharted 3's boss was pretty jank. Danny Passion Official, thank you very much for the $2. He said, if Starfield wasn't exclusive, it would get a 95 meta. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think that the industry is pointing out things, for the most part anyway, that are true, that there are faults to this game that keep it from hitting that 90 plus meta. Now, are there ridiculous reviews out there that gave it like a 2 or a 4? Yeah, there's some ridiculous stuff out there.
Kind of reviews about, and I think that's the thing. You can't really paint everything with a broad brush. I think, I was actually talking with a friend about this who's also played this over 100 hours. And I think, Kaz, the way you described playing this game, that sounds like the way a lot of Bethesda fans play Bethesda games, right? Like you kind of want to just take your time, live in the world. If I want to just screw around in this area for 5 hours and just investigate and and just play around with things, you do that in these games. And I don't think Microsoft did themselves or Bethesda did themselves any favors giving people 2 weeks with the code, right? Because you got to think about it, when you're a game reviewer, you have to also record the footage and write the review. So you're talking maybe a week and a half they had to play this game. Yeah. And if I feel like you're not really playing a Bethesda game if you're trying to figure out how to okay, I gotta try everything. Like I gotta go to the buffet. I got an hour to, or half hour to eat everything I can at the buffet. Try everything out. Like you're not going to enjoy it, right? You're probably going to have indigestion, and you might miss your favorite foods that were on there because you're trying to sample all the stuff so you can say you did it. And I think like these reviews that I had 54 hours, 60 hours. It's like, all right, they're sampling every little thing, then they're going through the main quest and they're done. And I just don't think you played a Bethesda game.
And that's they definitely don't have enough time to really feel what this game is all about with that review time that they got. I know a particular reviewer, and I'm not going to say his name, but he actually told me that the review experience kind of ruined his experience for the game because
doesn't surprise me.
You're under that pressure to get it done because you got to be out there and put your videos out first, and or write your articles first, and so you want to experience at least that main campaign plus whatever you can get to, and it kind of ruins some of their experiences. And I noticed a lot of reviewers out there that were saying that they fell in love with the game after their review.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there like, of course it's a Bethesda game. Like 2 weeks is not enough. Like you really have to sink a lot of time into this game to really get to those missions that mean something, and or just that they're flat out just fun.
Kind of funny said it, right? Like they were 3 out of 5s when the review embargo was up, and then you got Greg Miller's just like, I can't.
I'm in love, yeah.
So
ACG's out there playing the shit out of it all the time, apparently still. And ACG, that man he goes from game to game to game to game because he's always reviewing new games, but he's still got Starfield there.
Yeah.
Still playing Starfield.
That's awesome.
But
I would hate to be a Starfield reviewer. I couldn't do it. Like I'm sorry. There's too many games that end up being disappointments to me to give up on, to like force an experience that I want to have, on my own terms. Like screw that. It can't be me.
Hargeet Chani, thank you very much for the $5 super chat, brother. He says, the issue is I can point out a lot of issues like these games, like these in games that are rated in the 90s, playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I don't think it is anywhere near a 90 plus. What? Really? I'm hearing the opposite from a lot of people, Hargeet. But that game gets a lot of praise for its I think it's voice acting, it's the mocap. Like there's a lot of cool things. There's a lot of cool aspects of that game, but also the gameplay I heard is fun if you like turn-based. Now, one thing I did hear though, is that not a lot of people that reviewed it got to Act 3. And I think it like starts to really mess up, like, or at least they didn't really talk about how buggy it gets in Act 3. I don't know. I heard it gets really.
If you said it was polished, you probably didn't play Act 3. I've only got to Act 2 in it, by the way, so full transparency. But from what I've heard from other people who've made it to Act 3, it does get it did fall off the rails in terms of the polish. That part of the game felt like it was in beta. Yeah, I think it's a great game. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably play it after Starfield because I don't know when I'm going to seriously put down Starfield. It's going to be some time, and I'm not going to pick up anything else until I'm done with Starfield, because that's what I do with these big open world games. I basically play them until I'm done with them. Like I will beat the main campaign at some point, but then I'll just mess around, do other things. And then when I'm finally done with it, okay, it's time to move on. And that's what I'll do. Web Dave, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. He says, great show. Legendary Fonz and Cassie. OBM are awesome. Thank you. You're awesome, brother. Danny Passion Official, yet again, thank you very much, brother. He says, the ads are killing me. Frozen GTL with ads for dinner. Wow. Frozen GTL with ads for dinner. Sorry, brother. I'll try not to freeze up again. I don't know. Anyways, Starfield's been great, guys. Don't worry about the reviews. If you guys are like hung up on the reviews and, some of the poor reviews and stuff, it's really not something to be concerned with. If you love the game, play the game. Like that's all that matters at the end of the day. Let's talk about something else. So let's get into Unity makers of the Unity engine, of course. They are trying to charge these developers that use their engine for game downloads. Cassie, I have not seen something this egregious. Like this is really, really bad when it comes to corporate greed. This takes the freaking cake. What do you think about this? What do you think they're going to do?
I don't know. I feel like
they're not backing down.
The big ask is in play, and that eventually I think that they may end up falling back, but what comes out of it at the end is still going to be garbage in comparison, because I mean the big ask is like probably one of the most heinous things we've heard in gaming in a while, honestly speaking. And the fact that they think, they think they have the right to take it this far is the shame in itself. This definitely will stunt the growth of small developers more than anything else. I mean, I kind of joked about it, saying like I can't wait to see the death of mobile gaming. In a selfish way, I kind of, wow. Admittedly, it's very selfish of me, but
Unity does have a lot of mobile games for sure.
But for the indie devs that have made some great games, it's so crap, man.
What about Genshin Impact though? Don't you love Genshin Impact?
Oh man,
no, I'm just kidding.
Got to defend that game with my absolute life. But I heard the Cult of the Lamb devs were saying they might like delete their game.
That is crazy.
It's like that is my favorite game last year.
That right there should like really open up eyes. You've got developers out here, because let's be honest, if they start charging developers per game download, that what happens if, say, I download it on multiple platforms? Do they charge for each one? We don't know. And
who's to say that crypto miners won't use their their PC collection to purposely tank some companies?
Yeah, you're talking about these developers, and some of them are, even small time, just because they have a hit game. Because I think there's a threshold. I forgot how much it was, how many downloads, but they have their own system they're working out, which, by the way, is proprietary. It's not open. It's not transparent for everybody to see, by the way. So we don't know exactly how many downloads out there, but they do. Don't worry about them. Trust me, bro. That's what they're telling you. Trust me, bro. We know how many downloads you have, and you're going to pay us per download. Don't you think for 1 second that money or that extra cost is not going to trickle down to us, the consumer? Because eventually they will. If these companies start doing this could open up the floodgates to others doing it and then raising more prices on these games. I'm not going to want to pay more. I don't even want to pay $70 as it is.
I think there's a lot of ways that could go. I mean, right now, I think this is unprecedented. Basically, developers have used these engines with expectations that financially it works one way. It would be like getting another bill in the mail for say your mortgage company is like, we just decided that we're gonna tack on something to your mortgage for the amount of time you're actually staying in the home, or something like that. Like it really, I didn't even know that was possible, that they could retroactively do that for a game that's already been made. But I don't know how those contracts work. I think what the industry is going to hurt the most though is really going to be the mobile gaming. Because I think in independent developers that are going to get impacted the most, like in the traditional model, you're probably going to push a lot of them over to Unreal. I mean, that's one way to go about it. But really, like when you talk about the downloads, it's really the free to play stuff. It's the things that don't cost a lot of money to download to begin with. Subscription second on that list, but really mostly it's going to be the mobile market. So because this is the engine that the mobile developers all use. So like, how's that going to affect them?
I just think it's crazy that they're already charged to use the engine, these developers, and then they're going to try to charge them again per download. And it's like, why? Just because I have a hit game and you're like jealous that you don't get a piece of that? Like, F you. You don't deserve it. You didn't create this, okay? Yes, you gave us the engine, a foundation to work upon, but we did all the work. We put out a great game. Leave us alone after that point. Like, it's insane to me that they can actually think that they can get away with this. There's a lot of backlash out there. So far, they haven't backed down. And like I said, I don't think it'll get to the point where others will start doing this as well. But I just put that out there because I don't want to get to this space where I'm going to have to pay more because of shady, greedy things like this from these companies. I don't want any part of this because I know that always trickle downs to us consumers. It always does. We get the short end of the stick. And of course, you know, they've come out and they've addressed the gamers and they're like, hey gamers, don't worry. You know, if we're going to charge Game Pass for your downloads, don't worry. Xbox will take care of that. It's like, oh, sure. And Xbox is just going to eat the cost and it's not going to affect us at all. Yeah, sure.
Right.
No, I don't.
It all goes into the margin, right? Yeah, you're right about that.
I don't believe you. It's just crazy. Crazy.
No, it's a very excessive ask and change, and this will, if this goes through, it will change the state of gaming for the worse, no doubt.
Big time for the worst. Yes. Wade Johnson, thank you very much for the super chat. He says the guy in charge increased prices on indies is an ex-EA guy. Oh,
explains a lot.
Yeah, Mark Whitten.
They're the devil. I told you for many years. EA is the devil. I've told you guys that for many years, and people are like, "Oh no, look at him now." Well, look, this guy was an ex-EA guy. He's still from that old EA regime that used to just try to nickel and dime everybody. He says, ex-EA guy that wanted to charge everyone to a fee to reload guns in games. Yeah, that is.
Hey man, I hate to be the one that said I told you so, but physical media all day.
Oh, you know, okay. I was going to bring that up, but you know damn well they would look for a way to charge for each item shipped or sold to the stores. They would definitely get their cut.
At least if Cult of the Lamb does get deleted.
Yeah, you have the game.
Got it here.
Yeah.
Well, Cassie, the other side of that, though, is most games made in Unity don't get physical copies. The vast majority.
No, they don't.
Because they're mostly used by indie developers that and they don't have much to begin with. So, and it's awesome to see, like, you know, Unity work with these indie devs. Like I've had nothing but respect for Unity up until this point. Like the fact that you're able to give so many, like, you know, small groups the opportunity to throw their name, their weight, their art out there. You were doing something great, and way to just take that goodwill and just smash it into the fucking ground. Like, you have to be such a terrible piece of shit company to suddenly just literally be the savior. You turned from freaking Batman to the Joker like that. That is insane.
Yeah. And at one time, Unity Engine was kind of just like scoffed at, but it's gotten better and a lot more developers have used it. Even some AAA games out there have used Unity. And I think this is just so bad. Like, it's such a bad look. I hope that they don't keep, I hope they backpedal on this and just stop it, because they are getting a lot of backlash from the industry, from gamers, from everybody, and they should. This is when everybody should have the pitchforks out, not against Sony or Xbox. No, this is where you should have the pitchforks out, because at the end of the day, this is going to affect your wallet. Definitely will. Game Shark with $5. Thank you very much. He says, it's like selling paint supplies and asking painters to give you money every time you sell a painting. They can go F themselves. Exactly, Game Shark. Exactly.
It's dedicated. It's the obsession with how do we get money after the sale, and that's pretty much what ruins everything across gaming. If it be microtransactions, now this situation, like it ruins everything, man.
One of two things can happen. One, they can back off and not go through with this, or two, continue with this and kill their own company. Because I think eventually that's what it'll come to. I don't think there's developers out there who are currently making a game on Unity that will continue to make their game on Unity if they go through with this. And why would you at this point? Because
I think one of the issues Unity has, I think they are, one of the reasons they're doing this is out of desperation. They are a company that hasn't been well run. You know, in terms of the leadership and the way they've been run financially, I think they've only had like 2 positive quarters. So it's not a company that makes a lot of money. They just don't really know how to. They don't know how to monetize it. But the thing is, you know, no matter what the reasoning for trying to change things is first of all, you can't. The problem here is that you are, it's misleading your customers, right? Which is those developers. It's not being upfront with them. That to me is anti-consumers. When you are creating expectations for one thing and then you go in another direction. And I think they need to figure out some sort of business model that will make sense with, free to play and all that. But I don't know what the answer for that is, but I agree with you. I think that they are, if they continue to stay with this is not the answer. I don't see how this is going to, how they're going to be able to continue to, maintain any goodwill and that people aren't going to start looking for another option out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they'll get consolidated. That's probably the other thing that's going to happen. I mean, I think they're kind of up at.
But do you think they're really going to do this? I think they're going to back off.
I think so too. But
you've got too many people out there speaking against this. Sappho, you're right too. That's a funny thing that did happen. The president of Unity, the company, he sold some of his stock before making this announcement.
Just an idiot.
Insider trading much?
He knew that this was going to go down, people. He knew the backlash was going to happen. And that is crazy. But yeah, let's hope it doesn't happen, people. And let's go ahead and move on from that topic. In other bad news, though, guys, Square Enix has lost over $2 billion since the release of Final Fantasy 16. Now, this is not just due in part to Final Fantasy 16 not meeting their expectations per se, but it's really, if you look back over the last 5 years or so, they really haven't met expectations with most of their games, if any, really, in the last 5 years. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Cassie, I'll start with you.
Well, honestly speaking, Final Fantasy 16 is probably the biggest disappointment I've felt in a really long time. But that's not to say that it's a terrible game. I don't think it's a bad game.
I'm disappointed with it.
It really is disappointing. That was one of my most anticipated games in a really long time, and for it to hit that hard, it is a little depressing. I think that Starfield came out at the right time for me to kind of just figure out how to get over it being what it is. But to blame Final Fantasy 16 specifically for the state that Square Enix has put themselves in for years now is foolish. Like, I know that a lot of the journalists were running with it. Some people think it's just and I personally think that it's just simply because it's the big name. All their other games that they put out the past few years, besides 7 Remake, are not even noteworthy, being completely honest. Some people think, well, journalists have a hate boner for the game specifically because of the characters' races in the game, or, the color of their skin. So they had a bit of a hate boner to them. I don't know what it is. I figure maybe it's, I think it's more so it's just the bigger name to discuss. But to simply blame 16 for Square Enix shitting the bed for years now it's foolish, even with the game being a personal disappointment to me. But it's selling what, 3 million in a week. That's not something to scoff at. That's a big number despite that.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at just being on the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, no, it is impressive. I know it's not their high, what they wanted to be at. But,
let's be honest, Cassie. They always want to the moon when it comes to their game sales. They're never happy with their game sales. I've never seen them come out and say, "This is great, people. We've sold what we really wanted to sell." And that's why I was shocked when they kind of put it out after they sold that first 3 million. They were kind of alluding to that, like they were happy with it. And I was like, I was side-eyeing it, going, I don't know about this. This is Square. They're not like this.
You know what? Square is so effed up in so many ways. They put out AA games at AAA pricing. 4 games at the end of last year came out that were all RPGs that you could sink a bunch of time into. I was actually interested in a couple of them, but the problem was they're clearly AA and they're $60. I'm like, bro, I'm sorry, but first off, you keep releasing one every other week, and then on top of it all, it just the price to what I'm seeing, while I think these little cool games that look like they have something going on, I look forward to those types of games, but I'm sorry, I'm not willing to pay the AAA premium price for games that look like at that scale.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for a while. This is like, they need to come to the realization that, bro, you need to realize what you got here. Okay, these little games, they, you know, despite them being RPGs that you can sink a lot of time into, people ain't gonna look at stuff like that and say, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna pay $60 for that. No, you're gonna have people skip over your game entirely. And I'm someone that, I like those types of games, but I skipped over them because I can't justify the price point.
Yeah, especially like you know what? At one time, I'll admit, people, like you can go back for years ago when they first showed it, when it was Project Athia, which became Forspoken. I was excited for it. I was excited when they showed that at their showcase.
Yeah. The announcement was the best. The game looked at its best when they first announced
Yeah. When they first announced it, and all it just showed her running across the world and everything, I was like, that looks really cool. It didn't pan out like that. That game, I think, was really one of the big games that they banked on that didn't really sell well. And I think they wanted $70 for that. That was a $70 AAA experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, one.
No, I was going to say, like, I just think it's a big overall issue in terms of Square Enix just not having any clear direction, any clear identity, like you kind of went through a laundry list of items, but all that just kind of ties into one thing, right? It just sounds like a company that doesn't really know what it wants to be when it grows up, like where they're going. You know, like this is a company now that they're like, oh, hey, we need to diversify. True. Right? Like
that's true, right, because if you look at what they tried to do, okay, so they were known as like the Final Fantasy company. Then they tried to do the Marvel thing. Oh, we can bank on Marvel's success, and they didn't do well there. And you know, they Forspoken, they tried something a little bit different there. Didn't do well.
Gas 1 minute they're chasing the gas thing with Avengers, right? And then they leaned out all their Western studios at a time when they probably should have been looking to diversify, and those were talented studios, all three of them. All three of the studios that like go IOI, Crystal Dynamics, and IDOS all have made quality games, and I think they bombed Crystal by just making them chase the chase the loot box craze, and like it just feels like they're chasing one thing after another. Then with Final Fantasy, it's like, oh, we're gonna basically make a mainline Final Fantasy game that has nothing to do with Final Fantasy. Like not from the gameplay, not, you know, it doesn't have any identity. It's only Final Fantasy in name only, right? And it just feels like, 1 minute we're going to align with Xbox and we're going to throw everything onto Game Pass. Next minute, you know, if you're an Xbox gamer, you don't know, you're not going to invest in anything that comes from Square because you don't know if you're going to get the sequel, right? Like you just saw that with 1 minute of games on Game Pass, the next minute the sequels not on the system. So it just feels like they've had, and I've heard, you know, I'm sure everybody's heard for a while, like they've had bad leadership. And that's one of the reasons they got rid of the guy who was in charge there. And they haven't done themselves any favors with these deals either. Because, it's like you're operating this business like you're trying to pay this month's rent. You know, let's take some money you had from Sony. But you're doing that with one of the biggest IPs in the world. Like, if you look at all the top selling games of all time, Final Fantasy is up on that list, and for them to take something that's an IP like that and not even put it on PC is just, especially like now with, and I know Cassie, you don't want to hear this probably, but like now with the way gaming is going where, the games are going to be like in more places, right? They're going to be everywhere. And if you're making yourself less accessible, you're going to have less zeitgeist, you're actually damaging your brand. So you better hope that those money hats, the bag of cash you got for keeping that off of, even PC, that better have been one hell of a payout. Otherwise, none of it makes any sense. So bad leadership, and hopefully now with the new team there, they can get a little bit more focused and regain some of that.
I think that personally speaking, when I look at Final Fantasy as a franchise, they have permanently slivered the fan base of this, this long-standing franchise into 3 parts, and they do not like to cross over. Since 11, 11 was their first MMO. That's the first time they've truly like went the, you know, took the mainline Final Fantasy and said, yeah, we're just going to make an MMO out of it. Then you have 12, that is an MMO for lonely people. Then you have 13, that is that really put this like sledgehammer between the fan base. Like either people love that game or they can't stand it, and then Square is just like, well, let's make 2 more of these, you know, even despite it having like completely torn our fan base apart. Like they have been doing this, and now you have 3 different types of Final Fantasy fans: the ones that'll only F with the MMOs, the ones that'll only F with the turn-based RPG aspect, and the ones that like action games. And they don't understand how they destroyed this fan base. And it's
you're
like,
right. They did fracture that fan base. Yeah.
And what scares me is me as someone like Dragon Quest XI is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm scared that they are not going to realize how they chose to destroy the Final Fantasy fan base, and they might do it all over again with Dragon Quest XII. And I'm also hearing that Dragon Quest XII is also in development hell, supposedly. So if that's the case, yeah, Square, you're screwed. And it's a shame because, like, you know, 16, I was heavily looking forward to that. I'm still looking forward to Dragon Quest 3 remake, which I'm hearing is also getting censored. So yeah, thanks a lot, Square, for that. And then Dragon Quest 12, which I'm also hearing is going to divulge into a little bit of its own thing. Just stay to, like, keep your franchise what it is, because you have a set fan base. We're talking about franchises that are like, what, 30 years old or something? Older than me? Like, come on, man, over 30 years old. It's crazy how they don't recognize their own mistakes, and they continue to just run wild with their poor choice making.
Yeah, you were 100% right about them fracturing their fan base, because I never even really thought of it that way. But if you look at games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, if I can speak, what they did there with the combat, I thought was really good, because you kind of had an element of sort of a turn-based there thing, but you had that action as well, where you can slow down sort of the time and pick what you want to do and stuff like that. People loved it. Like, Final Fantasy fans really thought it was great. Going from that to a Devil May Cry style all action, combat system is pretty jarring for the Final Fantasy franchise, in my opinion. I think they should just stick with the format that they're doing with Rebirth, with 7, the remake, everything. That's where they should keep the Final Fantasy, combat system. They should keep that. I personally, and I know I am a minority here when I talk about this game, I'm not a huge fan of Devil May Cry games. I'm just not. I don't care for their combat much. It's not fun to me. And that's why I think I don't like Final Fantasy 16 as much, is I can't get into combat. Honest, though,
a lot of people compare Final Fantasy 16 to Devil May Cry's combat, and I feel like that's just disrespectful to Devil May Cry.
It's not even as good as Devil May Cry, right?
There is zero depth to that combat.
I was going to bring it up because what I find myself doing in Final Fantasy 16 is spamming the triangle a lot. Triangle. And it's just not fun to me. And then you get into the boss battles that look awesome. Majestic big creatures fighting, but it's like a QTE event. You're just you're just mashing the button at the right time. I'm playing Simon all over again in the 80s. That's how it feels.
Cassie, I want to thank you for clarifying that, because as somebody who does like Devil May Cry, what's good about Devil May Cry is there's depth to that, right? Like that button, that action combat can be really, really good when it's done well. But from the reason why I didn't even get into Final Fantasy, from everybody I heard that was playing it is very simple. You can use the same moves, spam them throughout the entire game, and that just doesn't. That sounds like that sounds very boring. No matter how pretty it is.
DMC truly great is there is a very high skill ceiling.
Yeah.
You can have fun just mashing the buttons, but if you actually take the time to learn some things and you watch some people like play
Yeah,
it
I'm
to like
sure.
the max possible skill potential, I think that honestly is what does turn a lot of people off. They'll be doing this and then they'll see other people doing some other stuff and you're like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to do that. Well, I'm out.
Do you know what turns me off of those Devil May Cry games? It's honestly the voice acting and hearing like the cringy, like, what are we gonna do
I
now?
love it.
You know, I
love it.
I'm just like, I'm out. I'm not watching
Dante-
anime. Yeah.
Look, when I saw Dante on the cover of DMC3 as like an 11-year-old, bro, I'm like, this character was made for me. He is the baddest MFer I've ever seen in my life on the cover. Instant buy. Didn't need to see anything else. That was back when you could buy a game just based on the cover, and 9 times out of 10, it actually be kind of, all right, I could dig it. And that one was a dub for me that day as a kid.
Yeah, no. But let's move on from this. Let's talk about Sony State of Play. That happened recently. What did we think of the showcase, guys? Any thoughts?
I had very low expectations, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, Cassie, we're on the same page here. I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. I see a lot of people out there saying it was terrible. It was this. I ended up sitting down and watching it this weekend because I hadn't watched it live. I was working. I watched it and I thought, it's not a bad show. And they were very transparent what they were going to show. And that's what they did. Like, I don't care for the VR stuff and everything, so I just skipped it, you know? So if you're watching it live, I can understand you're sitting there having to deal with all that. But for me, I'm just skipping whatever I don't want to see. It wasn't that bad. I thought what they showed was decent. We saw more looks to games that do look interesting to me. I don't know. Was there anything in there that looked interesting to you guys?
They finally got me to be kind of interested in Spider-Man 2.
Really?
Everything that they showed prior was just like, whatever. Now what I'm seeing is getting me excited, because for me, most games, honestly, you play them for 3 hours and then you're just like, well, this is the entire gameplay loop and I'm going to have to deal with this gameplay loop for like 20 plus hours. So that's going to be boring as heck. With them really like giving us the showcase of gameplay and just like seeing that, yeah, man, like, you know, Peter definitely looks different. Miles definitely looks different. So that's interesting to me. The only thing they have to do at this point, please let me play as Venom. Just give me like these different types of gameplay, and just let me feel like there's always something new right around the corner. If you can manage to pull that off. And honestly, I'm loving seeing, you know, how big this map is. And I think it's genius that they have like the little gliding outfit, because I mean, being from, you know, Queens myself, I understand the difference between Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. Like, I understand, like, you're not going to have nearly as many buildings. So the fact that they offset all that with the glider, I think is genius on their front. And I'm way more excited than I was before. Honestly, I don't care about the story. I can't really connect these characters. They all look like dorks to me.
No,
man, just give me some bomb ass gameplay and I'm hyped.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. That I was just talking to somebody about that the other day concerning Spider-Man 2018. A lot of people are going to hate me for this. I thought it was a really solid game, but I gave it like a 7.5 out of 10. Like, I didn't really even give it an 8, because one thing about it I don't care for is like the story. It was Spider-Man, Aunt May, when she, you know, dies in the game or whatever. I didn't care. I had no feeling there. I'm like, whatever. I just couldn't really connect with the character. I didn't connect with the Spider-Man and the voice acting and everything in the game, but it was fun. But my biggest weakness for Spider-Man is what everybody loves. The swinging around. I get tired of it. Wow. Like, I don't care about the swinging in the game. Like, and I love Spider-Man as a character. He's my favorite Marvel character, but I just don't care to play the game. It reminds me of the old Spider-Man games back in the day that I used to play, and it's just like, whatever. The combat though is really fun. Combat's fun, and that's why I preferred Miles Morales. I gave that an 8 out of 10 because I thought that they had more going on with his character in terms of combat skills and stuff. I thought he had way better arsenal than Peter did. And I found it a lot more fun when I'm fighting and stuff, you know, taking down bad guys in the game. And I liked that game a little bit better. And so I'm hoping for even more of that here, because I am seeing different moves, different combat for each of the 3, you know, suits. And Venom looks pretty cool. You know, that's going to be cool when you're playing, you know, in the Venom suit or whatever, see how that works out. The game looks really, really good. Looks really, really good.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of the similar feelings that you do, Fonz, on this, and one of the reasons is I played 2018 Spider-Man. I grew up in I was a big Marvel fan when I was like 16, 17. But as from that stage to the old man yelling at this cloud stage, the only superhero that kind of stayed with me was Batman. And so for whatever reason, Spider-Man just, I don't dislike it or anything, but it just doesn't, the IP itself is not what's going to like.
I prefer the Arkham series over Spider-Man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Because and I like the more grounded nature of just the combat, right? The flow of that, and I don't know if I played it the right way, because I played on default difficulty, and I think one of the things I've started to realize with a lot of Sony's games is they start the normal difficulty so that it's really easy for so as far like the younger and newcomers can pick it up and not feel overwhelmed by it, and so like I was 10-15 hours in, and it just started to feel like too easy. Like I wasn't really like engaged in any of the combat mechanics. So what I do like about what I saw this last week with this game is what you were just bringing up. There seems to be a lot more in the arsenal. And so I am thinking, well, maybe if I turn up the difficulty, I'll be challenged to start using all this stuff. And they said that you're supposed to, like, they made this game where you can't just spam the same few moves the whole thing. So, which is what I did in Spider-Man, the 2018. I just spammed the same couple moves. It was not Devil May Cry, right? It just was like use the same few things, and you kept. Yeah, there wasn't really any.
They did add a parry now too, within the combat, so that's good. That's good that they did that. It's not just a dodge now. So
this game's a little more dark, so that's what has me.
I think this is going to be the best one out of them all. Honestly, I think this is going to be the most fleshed out. And believe me, guys, when I gave it 7 out of 10 or whatever, the 2018 game, I had no malicious thoughts of the game. It wasn't, it's just for me like the once you swing through the city 100 times, it gets old. I don't know. I just whatever. So now they actually added other things too. They added the web wings or whatever, so you can kind of like not glide essentially. So it's you got a little bit of difference there going on. Also a new look to that new area, opening up Queens and stuff. So that'll be pretty cool that you can go there and see something new. Because that was another knock I had on it initially. I was like, are we going to want to swing through the same city again for the 3rd time? But now they're giving you more looks. And I appreciate that. Insomniac is awesome. I can't wait to see what they do with Wolverine, because that's going to be dark and gritty. It's got to be. So I can't wait. Can't wait to see what they do with that. A lot of people in the chat are indifferent about the game, but there's people that agreed with me. They felt that, 2018 Spider-Man was just okay, or just good.
It's hard to go. I can't go back to that game. It just, it was, I had a lot of, and the thing is, I really enjoyed it. I like the combat, but the story was, I was just,
what I didn't like about Miles, and I still gave it a good score. I don't like the way they make him sound, his voice. They made him sound really like wimpy. Hey, Spider-Man. And I'm just like, no, don't do that. Just use your own voice. Because I've heard the actor talk. I'm like, why don't they just let him talk like that? Like a normal person. Why does he have to sound like, get higher in his voice? Like, man, it's bad. Anything else from the showcase though? Because I knew we'd all kind of look at Spider-Man and go, wow, looks good.
Avatar looks like I'm more interested in an Avatar video game than I've ever been any of their movies. I thought that actually looked pretty damn good, considering I had zero interest.
I don't see the appeal of the Avatar movies. I watched Avatar, the first one, and I was just like, it's all right, but why were people going nuts over that? Like,
It just looked pretty. That's all it is. It's a
That's it.
3-hour action film that has no justification for being 3 hours. It's a joke.
No, I thought it was a little. I thought it was boring, and I'm just not into the IP. The game looks pretty cool. Like if you would have never told me it was Avatar, and I was just watching this as a as a new IP, and didn't have anything point of reference, I would have said this looks interesting, right? But
it looks good. Looks really good. This game.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I mean,
and this is not just a PlayStation game. From what I've heard, this is like a multiplat, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It'll come in everything.
But it looks incredible. I think the graphics are really good. The gameplay looks kind of fun. When you're holding your weapon and stuff, in that first person, it looked pretty good. Like I was pretty impressed. I want to know what it feels like, though. I want to.
Yeah.
Can't really say until I pick up that controller and try. I'm sure they'll have a demo or something of this game before it drops, or they should.
They should. I think it would capture a lot of people if the game is actually.
God, that looks so good. Look at all the foliage and everything moving in the wind, and like it just looks really good. This is a high quality game right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, now
man.
Wade Johnson in the chat said, I haven't watched Avatar. Yeah, watch it if you want, but it's nothing special. That's why I never saw the second one. It came out and I was just like, whatever.
I don't even remember the story. It was so boring. I was just, it was pretty, but that's all I remember.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd rather play a game that looks that good, right?
Yeah.
They also had Helldivers 2. Of course, we've seen that time and time again, but that's finally coming next year.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, what's up with that frame rate that they showed?
Yeah. And honestly, I think, these showcases, they really need to stop having people fake a gamer like conversation while playing a game.
Oh my god.
It is so cringe. Unless you're cursing and you're not going to do that, do not try to pretend to be a gamer. It doesn't work. You just sound extremely cringe.
I'm reloading. They're just like, yeah, no. But it looks like one of those games that, well, this is a gas game, right? This is one of those.
Oh, is it?
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be because it's a multiplayer.
It's
I hope PC, right? I hope it's fun. I don't want to see anything fail. But I don't know. Jury's still out. And the frame rate in this trailer was very, very suspect. Because it dropped a lot of times.
Honestly, it screams that a AA developer bit off more than they could chew. I'm sorry. Really? I hope to be wrong. I would like to be wrong on that. But if you're telling me I get to play this or like Remnant 2, and I haven't even touched Remnant 2 yet, but that looks cool. I'd rather play Remnant 2, not for nothing.
Yeah,
It gives me some Outriders vibes in terms of quality, that was a fun game.
The problem is, I wouldn't even say that Outriders was necessarily like a really high quality AAA.
No,
it was
like a high AA.
Yeah. So I see where Cassie's coming from, but Outriders was really fun. For what it was really fun. So hopefully if we get that with this, that would be great. Because Outriders was great.
So is this going to be a $70 game then? If it's a gas game?
I would probably say so. Like I would bank on it. Because isn't this a PlayStation 5 exclusive?
It's on PC.
Isn't it on PC?
Oh, PC. Yeah, but if it's PC, and I'm telling you, PlayStation's going to push 70. They're going to push it. Good old Jim Ryan. He's going to make it $70, I'm sure. If it's less than that, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But,
does that totally work for Square Enix? I mean, what?
Yeah, it's working great.
That's the problem with it, especially if this is, and the reason it's on PC is probably because they think they want it to have legs and be able to sell you DLCs and microtransactions and everything else. It's like, I don't know if those two things work together. I think you have to decide if you're going to go with microtransactions and, lots of updates, or you're either, or B70. And this, I don't know, we'll see. I'm not really sure that they, I need to know more about the business model, but if it is a $70 game and it's one of those like kind of like everlasting type things, I'm a little worried.
Yeah. Which dev? It's Arrowhead Studio. Yeah. Arrowhead. That's their name. Yeah. Do you think there's people out there that are so concerned? I'm sure it's just fake concern, but that Sony isn't showing too much, and that they're worried that Sony might be changing for the worse in terms of, the types of games they're going to be getting or the frequency in those games. But honestly, if you look back over even last generation, Sony doesn't put out a lot of first party AAA games themselves every year. I mean, you might get one or two. So
Yeah.
I don't see it changing from that.
Well, I think the one thing I'd add with context with that, because they did come out with their statement where they were talking about the investment, and it was going to be like 60-40. I can't remember which was 60, which was
Yes,
40.
gas games were going to be 60% of their business, apparently.
Yeah.
That's something they were saying.
And in addition to that, now something that was brought up, was like, well, when you look at just the hard numbers of it, that the single player budget is the same as it used to be. So it's just they're adding on the multiplayer budget on top of the single player budget. But I think the other kind of context is, if the single player budget is the same as it was last generation, we know games are taking longer, and some of that budget is for PC ports, for remakes. So I think that when you start doing the math backwards, there's probably going to be a little bit less. I'm not saying it's going to be a lot less, but I think there's going to be a percentage less of the cadence of the single player games. Again, because you can't really. If Jim Ryan even said too that this generation they want to make their single player games bigger, So I think they're going to have less. They're probably going to try to go all out on their big tentpole IPs, and they're going to try to diversify with some of this other stuff, which maybe we'll fund more other types of games down the road. But that's what it looks like for the short term. So it may not be totally out of line to think that we might get a little bit less than we had last gen.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys about Sony, though, is do you feel like their first party games, when you see them, even something like Spider-Man 2, you can see them also being ported over to the PlayStation 4? Like that isn't the realm of, that couldn't be in the realm of possibilities. The fact that, these games, they look incredible, don't get me wrong, but we've seen incredible looking games on the PlayStation 5 that were also on the PlayStation 4. So I see a lot of people that are talking about how they always have like a performance mode in their games and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, well, is it easier because these games haven't really changed much for PlayStation since the PlayStation 4 generation and the PlayStation 4 Pro? We're essentially still seeing the same type of graphics from them.
Same assets, like a lot of the same game design.
Yeah.
And I have a buddy that actually does development. He worked on Unreal Engine for a couple decades, and he says all these games, they scale up and down, the list, and they can scale to anything. So it really just comes down to the developers, like, whether it's the business, the business of it, where it's like, hey, we don't want to focus on optimizing old gen. We want people to start moving over. Or it's just the developer says, hey, I'm drawing a line here. I don't want this to be this level of visuals or whatever it is. So usually you can always make some compromises if you want to port down. So I think you're right. I think they could. I mean, there's nothing about the moment-to-moment action. Like, it doesn't look like the physics are a different level or the AI is at a different level where you need, the next level of CPU for stuff like that. So you're probably right.
And I'm not saying that they could all run on the PlayStation 4, but just looking at something like Spider-Man 2, it doesn't look so far off from Spider-Man 2018 on the PlayStation 4 Pro.
To be fair though, you look at Starfield at face value, you kind of feel the same way, But
no.
Starfield running on a hard drive, and it don't work. Yeah. It's not acceptable for me. Let's just put it that way.
No, it's definitely. I'm only bringing it up because if you look at some of these games that people are always saying, Sony games, they always have a performance mode. And it's like, yeah, well, if a game can be running on last gen hardware, I don't understand why they shouldn't, because we had games coming from Ubisoft, like Odyssey, that were running at 60 frames on these new consoles and stuff. And they look great to me. They look fine. I don't see why we have to try to push so hard with this. And I'm all for pushing innovation, but there's a certain point where I'm like, what would I rather have though? Would I rather have some more ray tracing in my games or 60 frames?
Yeah.
Like, do I want the lighting to be absolutely perfect, or do I want screen space reflections and cube maps and 60 frames? Like, I'd rather take the 60 frames.
Can I just say, I think ray tracing's been a bust. This generation.
In the console side, pretty much, but on the PC side, there are ray traced games that look incredible to me.
Cyberpunk on a high end PC looks great, but on the consoles, I don't think the consoles are ready for it. It's
no, of course they're not.
Yeah,
of course they're not. I don't know why they're pushing that so much. But again, you'll have Sony guys telling you Spider-Man 2's got ray tracing. Yeah, but it doesn't look as...
performance better be on point. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Mark from the Just Gaming podcast, thank you very much, brother. He says the current gen exclusive games are on or are coming to the PC because they run better there. And yes, Starfield at 144 hertz looks awesome. Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it looks amazing on PC. But our consoles are not that strong. They're not.
Nope.
They're just not.
But you know what? These devs are also allocating all their resources to things that are going to go after, the normie. I'm sorry, I don't really... look, man, my eyesight's going just a tad bit. I can't tell the difference between checkerboard 4K and 4K. I can't.
No,
okay, so just make the game run really well and innovate from a gameplay perspective. I haven't seen that very much, and to me, that's what matters. I'll play a game, and I know a lot of people don't feel this way, but I'll play a game that looks like crap as long as the performance is on point and the gameplay is amazing. Like that's really what matters to me. But to the person that plays your GTA 5, your Call of Duties, like that doesn't appeal to them. And that's the problem too. I feel like they I think Xbox and PlayStation are guilty of appealing more to the normie than
I believe so too.
That are more this is their hobby very strongly.
And ray tracing is that next new big buzzword as well. Like we've had 4K for many years. Now it's ray tracing. Soon they'll be pushing 8K gaming, and it's like, why? Why? 4K looks fine. 1440p looks fine to me. We don't need full 4K games. We just don't. We don't need all the ray tracing. It's just, I don't know. God Emperor Sofa King, thanks for the $2. He says ray tracing is a gimmick and bloat vaporware. Well, it's not a gimmick. It does stuff, but it is very bloaty for sure. Yeah. Hopefully they get that streamlined a bit. But one game I'm sure Cassie is excited for that they showed. Hopefully it'll have ray tracing, is none other than Baby Steps, guys.
Oh, God, dude.
I know they opened the show with this. All right? Like, are you guys ready for Baby Steps? No. I understand what this kind of game is. Like, it's like Humans Fall Flat, but it's actually got some decent graphics to it, I guess. What's Lord Attic doing there? Holy cow. Looks like Lord Attic. Oh, man. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I didn't know he got in his own
He's got his own video game. No, but shout out to Lord Attic. Great guy.
Lord Attic got a big booty, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's like Humans Fall Flat, but with better graphics. And I can see you playing this with friends in a party chat or whatever, just having a good time, laughing about this game. But it's definitely not a freaking game that I'm going to want to play. Like, I won't be playing this game. It's just weird.
I'm guessing this is going to do pretty well on stream.
It's a streaming game. Yeah. I could see people watching this and laughing with the streamer and stuff like that, especially if it's a charismatic streamer.
I'm kind of a jerk, so if I catch any of my buddies playing this, they will be roasted for multiple weeks. That's just what it is. That's where I
So
draw
you
the
weren't
line.
excited. And any fans of Tales of Arise games? They showed
Tales of
some
Arise is
DLC.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great game.
I've never played one.
I haven't
Fun
played one
gameplay,
either,
man.
but I heard they were pretty good. I assume that's turn-based, right? Tales of Arise?
Nah,
No?
action.
No? RP? Really?
Actual combat. Unlike
Really?
Final Fantasy
I've always
16, yeah.
I always thought that Tales of Arise was a turn-based RPG.
Nope. Awesome
Wow.
action RPG combat.
Okay.
Really great story,
Never
visually
looked into it.
stunning. I love the characters. Really, really solid game, man.
Very anime-ish, maybe.
Yeah, but it does have,
Yeah.
you know, a reasonably serious story to it. You know,
Yeah.
they impressed me. They very much impressed me. I think that game smites Final Fantasy 16 out of the conversation. So it's cool to see that that game is getting some dope DLC. It deserves it.
Yeah. I for me, I think the anime voice acting, especially when they dub it in English from Japanese, it just gets real corny, real quick.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these games, it just turns me off based on some of that voice acting that they do. And it's just like, no, I can't. I don't know. It's a personal thing, people. Anyways, I'm going to end the show because I've got things to do, and so do my guests. But anyways, thank you for showing up, guys. I appreciate you. Last minute hitting you guys up. You guys were ready to go. Appreciate you both. Cassie, thank you for coming by. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, keep it simple. YouTube, Kick, and Twitter, Cult Classic Cage. You know, I love talking about gaming, just having fun with everyone, man. It's always a good time. I try to keep the good vibes, you know, while having the honest conversation. So if that's what you're into, definitely check out what I got going on. I made plenty of videos talking about Starfield and defending Starfield because I feel like it deserves it. The game has gotten so much hate for such arbitrary reasons, man.
Yep.
So
For sure.
watch me just keep real on those conversations. You're welcome to go check out my catalog.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I just got a thumbs down as soon as you said that. Some people out there like, she defended Starfield.
You gotta balance it out. It's not that we don't have complaints, but we have to balance it, right?
Yeah.
You
You got to call the bullshit out too when people are hating for no freaking reason. You got to point it out and go, what? You're stupid. You obviously haven't played it. Okay. You know, what Jaffe did was incredible the other day when he caught that guy in that lie and said, oh, what was it that you didn't like when you had to burn the bodies? And the guy was like, well, yeah, that was part of it. It's like, what? That never happened. That was so good.
Oh, that was really good. Yeah.
One Bad Mother, thank you for showing up today. I appreciate you, brother. I'm sad that your audio wasn't fixed.
I am sad too, man. Especially you got really great production values. First of all, I didn't get a chance to say it because I was so distracted with not just my mic. I just noticed how washed out my camera is for this whole show. I was like, what's going on today?
It's all
this is on a 4090, by the way. It's everything's just malfunctioning. So that's the joys of PC. But yeah, and absolutely love your opening. As somebody who grew up in the 80s, that's like first exposure to gaming was like playing Robotron with my dad at the, waiting for a movie playing on the arcade machine. It's like that one always gives me feels, kind of seeing your gaming through time opening and the 80s vibe. I connect with that so much. So.
Yeah, I wanted to make it look like I was hitting play on a VHS, running that,
It's so good. I love it, and you do a really good job producing. And the next time, hopefully there's a next time, I'll make sure this
for sure. We can even get behind it. Yeah, we can get behind the scenes and try to fix it next time. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, again, if anybody wants to find me, right now the easiest thing is just Twitter, Mother1, MUTHA_ONE. I am been working behind the scenes to start up the channel. It was going to start up this month, but then something happened named Starfield. So I think it's going to be delayed a month. because I want to make sure we get some content out consistently when I hit that up. So just follow me on Twitter. I'll have that out here shortly, and I'll be putting out videos instead of podcasts, because I've got a lot of friends doing the podcast thing right now, and so I'll just kind of keep showing up there and get some of my own Starfield Defense Force out there. And I'm being facetious. But it was an awesome time, and thanks for being patient with the technical difficulties.
Oh, for sure, man. God Emperor Sofa King with $5 at the end here, saying let all go land. Let's all go land on some gas planets. Oh, he wants to land on some gas planets.
Some bodies.
Yeah, let's go. I want to thank everybody out there who came to the live show, everybody listening, of course, after on all the streaming platforms. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, folks, game on.